Good morning and welcome to FDM, a channel dedicated to Ferra data models. Well, it is Friday and time for an update to the Are We Winning series, where I look at the progress we're making in this global fight against the pandemic. And we are struggling. The world is struggling, the US is struggling, South Africa is struggling. Let me show you the numbers. I've already updated everything, so I'm just going to jump into the report and let's look at infections. Now what you see here is South Africa. South Africa is really struggling at the moment. And this is the new infections, this dotted cyan line, and the solid line is a 7-day moving average of that. And you can see we are not peaking. We should be peaking, stabilizing, and once we've stabilized, I expect that line to come down fairly quickly. But at the moment we are not. Now this is swamping out everything else. So because of the scaling, it's flattening everything else. So I'm just going to move that to its own axis, and then I want to discuss some of the other figures. Now what we've got here, there we go. What we've got here is a model. This red line is a model I've built, and I've been following it since early April. In this grey box gives you the time period that I've been following it. So I constructed it, calibrated everything to be the same on this day, and I've been following it since then. And in order to win in this battle against the virus, the world or South Africa or the US should be doing better than this red line. We must be below this red line. Not only do we need to be below this line, we also need to be moving down towards zero. And you can see initially the virus had a small impact on South Africa, but that also covers our lockdown period. But 2 weeks into the lockdown, the thing sort of started to explode. And that's what we see. So locally there's talk of another lockdown, a hard lockdown, but I don't think that's going to work. The lockdown works for about 2 weeks and then it disappears. Its benefit disappears. Here you see the US. The US initially hit particularly hard, but then they got it under control. But then about a month or half a month ago, it started exploding again. And it's like there's a race between South Africa and the US. Here you see the world, this green line, the moving average, and you can see even the world is struggling. The world's been below the model. We started more or less on the model, but we've been below it for the last couple of months. But then about a month ago, a little bit less than a month ago, the world infections punctured through the model and has been steadily increasing and above. So everybody at the moment seems to be struggling with the virus and not making progress, not making the progress we need. Let's look at some other figures. Yeah, I look at the model and the figures are relative to population size. So these figures you can interpret. They are not scaled arbitrarily, but they are scaled to the size of the population. And here you can see the huge impact this had on the US initially. But the US got it under control, and then it just started exploding again. South Africa really didn't feel this virus until, let's say, May. Around about May it started exploding. And now it looks like we're in deep trouble. Okay. Let's look at the fatalities or the deaths. At least here South Africans were doing well. There you can see the world number of people as a percentage of world population that died because of the virus. There you can see the US, and even though the US has this new spike, it seems to be flattening. They seem to be getting that under control, but South Africa is increasing, and whereas in the past we were low, and compared to the US we are still really low. This is picking up as we feel the impact of the virus. Okay, let's look at this figure. Now what this shows is the new infections as well as the infections calculated by using a death projection. I call these figures a death projection, and the argument goes like this. If one person dies today because of COVID, it means 14 days ago, 2 weeks ago, 100 people were infected. Of those 100 people, one person didn't make it. One person became a fatality. So that's how the argument goes. So you can use both the official infections figures as well as the death figures to get an idea of the number of new infections. And the deaths overstated and the official figures probably understated. So I think the real figure is probably in between. It's probably in between somewhere. So if you look at these figures, there's the US. This magenta line is the US, and the yellow is the US based on the fatalities. And somewhere in between these two, the actual figures are. The same for South Africa. And at least here you can see that the infections based on fatalities in the US is dropping. So hopefully this will squeeze down on the new infections and the US will get it under control again. Let's look at South Africa in unison or only. Okay, so here you see South Africa. So there's the official reported new infections, and there's the infections calculated on the fatalities. We should be in between here somewhere, and hopefully again this can squeeze the blue down a bit, the blue line down a bit. This is what happened in New York. Here you see the new infections in New York, and what we should do is we really should peak. We should stabilize and peak and then start coming down again. But at the moment it seems that's not happening yet. Well, that's it for today. Hope to see you next week, and I hope we've got some good news next week. Thank you.